Books on the brain.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Books on the Brain, a podcast of books and nonsense. I'm Danielle,
And I'm Deirdre.
and we are back again for another episode. Hey, 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 hey.
Woohoo.
What a day. What a day, what a
Yay.
life. I guess this is probably our fastest turnaround episode, hey,
I think so.
this season. Um, we're doing a lot of pre-recording, which makes me feel very grown up. That I'm like, we're pre-planning and like have our poop together. Holy guacamole!
It's the most pre-recorded season we've done. Even though our other seasons, we have done a lot of pre-recording, the way the schedule always wound up, it felt like we were constantly playing catch up to get the episode out.
Yes, Stress
Where
City.
with this season, we just saved the two episodes, this episode and our first episode,
Yeah,
to go out as close to release date as possible because the topics were a little bit more
time sense.
time sensitive.
It does.
Um, where everything else can be a little bit more loosey-goosey, and it's kind
Yes,
of nice. It's kind of nice to look at the calendar and be like, oh, I already edited and uploaded and did
yes.
all the things for episodes in July.
You're like, oh, especially since we're two busy
I know.
girls working in the city, two very different cities, uh, doing our thing. I know for me, it's report card season, IPP season, end of the year transition season. So I'm losing my marbles. When we get off the call today, I will be sitting and locking myself in my dark basement, finishing my report card comments.
Mm. It is Tony Sunday. I have a friend coming over to watch the Tonys with me. Um, I worked on a show that has 7 nominations, which is very exciting. So I can't wait to see how that turns out. And then I have a lot of friends performing, or working backstage at the awards today, which is really
Sick. Who do you think is going to win Best Leading Actress?
nice. In a musical,
Yes, I should have.
I have no idea.
That,
When I saw Death Becomes Her, I said it was going to be Megan Hilty.
yes.
Um,
But Jennifer, too,
Jennifer too. Although I didn't get to see Jennifer. I saw Jennifer's understudy.
was
So I need to
equally
go
bad.
back and see because I love Jennifer. I got to see her in the Britney Spears musical Once Upon a One More Time.
Yeah.
And
So good.
her voice is insane.
Yeah.
She is a powerhouse performer. So I was so excited that she was doing Death Becomes Her, and then I was so upset the day I went. She happened to not be there. Um, but Megan is a powerhouse.
She's
Like
our
both
girl.
of them. I mean,
She's our girl.
so yeah, but then
But then
there's
Audra.
Audra and Jasmine.
Yes.
So I
I don't know
really,
much about Boop the Musical, if I'm being completely transparent. It's not super my cup of tea. But what I've heard is that, like, if anything should win from that show, it should be her for that role.
I agree. Or I think Greg's costumes might win.
And honestly, even like the set, some of
Hmm.
the theatrical designs I think are really sick. Like the number where they turn from black and white to color. How fun is that?
It's really cool.
Um, but
So
Audra,
yeah,
so it's like,
I have no idea. I think there are some really intense categories.
yeah.
I mean, I think every category is really intense. It's been a
Sorry,
really amazing year, in both plays and musicals.
yeah,
So I have no idea what's gonna happen.
it's gonna be crazy. Well, stay tuned. I mean, you'll all know by the time this comes out, but for us, we're
I
waiting on
know.
the
And
needle.
I'll obviously be posting on my Instagram as the
Yeah,
evening goes on. It's the first year since I started working on Broadway that I'm not like doing a Tony something. Although I didn't do a Tony something last year because
yeah.
we didn't have a party and I just went home and watched it in my apartment, which was kind of nice. But I still had a show that day, so we were still in the like hustle and bustle
Yeah.
of it. Um, it's the first year since I started working on Broadway that I'm not like involved in a show at
Yeah.
all. Um, so it feels a little different.
Enjoy it. Enjoy the peace. Enjoy the
I
distance.
am. I have a lot of friends working on Operation Mincemeat and
Yeah.
they are performing. And I'm so proud of them. Like one of my really good friends from college is on the dressing team, and we both, have worked on Broadway together and have like basically started our careers together, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm so, so proud of her. I do not envy her.
And you said, I'm so happy for you, girl, but I'm gonna let you have
Like, absolutely. While I was in that world, working the Tony Awards and working the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade were two kind of like, those would be amazing bucket list items to check off. The reality of doing them,
yeah.
I'm okay.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
I'm okay. Um, so yeah, but okay, we have a lot to catch up on, you and I. Are you ready?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I watched The Pit.
And
It was really good.
it's loco bananas.
Yeah.
Deirdre watched it, and the first text I get is, "What is Perfect Penny doing?" Look at it. And I was like, "Great question." That actor truly says, "A medical show, put me in, coach.
I'm there.
Put me in."
Um, I was watching it here on this couch,
Yes.
and my dad came out and he didn't see the screen, but
Yeah.
he walks by and then he turns and he goes, "Is that ER?" And I was like, "No, it's actually a new medical show, The
Yeah.
Pit." And he was like, "Weird. That sounded like Noah, insert last name." And I was like, maybe it is. And it is. The guy from
Great.
ER is the lead in The Pit. And my dad, like,
New.
knew instantly. That's how you know ER had some serious, like, pop culture penetration.
And like my mom was also an ER watching person, and
Mm,
I've never seen an episode. Like it's
neither.
not really on my radar, but it's something about medical dramas transcend the test of time.
They really do.
There's always going to be some because there's always going to be some kind of medical mystery that people
I
want to,
know.
which is crazy. Well, I have something to catch up with you. Started
Mhm.
Hacks. It's
Yes.
very funny.
It's so funny.
I think I'm in season two.
Nice.
Um, it's yeah, it's really delightful. It's I'm surprising, yeah, not surprisingly, but it feels like it's got a nice mix of tones in it, where it's like, oh,
Right.
it's very funny, but also like we're talking about things that are serious,
Right.
which
It's
is
one of those shows. Well, I feel like there is so much scripted television available
yeah,
right now. Like there's so many platforms. It feels like there's constantly new shows coming out. There's shows coming out with new seasons that it feels really difficult to stay on top of what is new and could potentially be interesting. Because
yeah,
I feel like we are very similar as like creatures of habit and creatures of comfort.
yes,
But like sometimes starting a new show is not what I want to do. I just want to put something on that my brain doesn't have to think too hard about. And
yes.
so then like with Hacks and the Pit, it was so nice to be like, oh yeah, I do like I like
It's,
new stuff.
it's nice to not know beat for beat what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
There's something nice about that.
Yeah. I also watched Sirens. I've been watching a lot of TV over the last 2 weeks. I have not been reading. Um,
Ditto.
so I watched Sirens on Netflix. Have you watched it?
I have not yet.
I would recommend it.
Okay.
I think, especially because we are both like, we like the production
Yeah.
of a thing.
Yeah.
Production wise, acting wise, very, very good.
Okay.
I think it was marketed totally wrong
Hmm.
because you go into it, and even the way the first episode is structured, you think it's going to be a like supernatural cult
Yeah.
vibe, and
Yeah.
it's not either of those things.
Huh.
Like cult kind of, but not in a like we're doing a cult expose and like getting somebody out of a cult.
Yeah.
Um,
It's more like we're in the cult.
kind of not really. It's
Yeah.
more like about what the title is, which is Sirens.
Yeah.
And you have these three women who constantly have men in their lives that are like, I'm so enamored by you and I just want to be around you. And they're
Yeah.
like, okay. And then these men like weaponize their incompetence and their infatuation with these women.
Truly man child.
Truly man child. And uh I was like, let's tap more into that. Let's
Gotcha.
tap more into the like power that those three women have
Yeah.
in their like essence that they exude in the world and how people try and weaponize that against them because it
Yeah.
makes them act a certain way.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I'd watch a show
Yeah.
about that.
So it's more about that, I would say,
Okay, great.
which I think when you frame it that way and you go into it that way, you're more likely to enjoy it.
Yeah, you're not like, where was it? Remember that thing in episode one? Where the heck is that?
Yeah. Speaking of man-child, you
Mancha.
listen?
So good.
I need to watch the video.
I've also not watched. I thought about it this morning. I was laying in bed and I was like, I should probably watch it. But I was
I
I'm
watched a
enjoying the
TikTok
bliss
this
of this.
morning where somebody laid out the like cinematic universe of her music videos
So good.
from um Espresso, I think,
Yeah,
through Manchild.
got you.
And I was like, oh, so I need to go watch all of these videos in a sequence.
Yeah. Oh, so she's a genius.
No, for real.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and people are like getting up in arms. They're like, this is a ripoff of Good Luck Babe. I do not get that vibe at all from that song.
It feels like an extension of her last album.
That's what it very much feels like. It's even like melodically, it doesn't sound like Good Luck Babe. Thematically, I'm like, not really. Like, I don't
No.
know why people are like, Chapel needs to sue her. I've been seeing some weird discourse around the song, and I'm like,
That's so
I
bizarre.
know, and I'm like, it's yeah, it's they're two very very different songs. So I feel like I've been looking at the song through this analytical lens of like, is it? And I'm like, but it's not
It's not.
at
It
all.
sounds, when it started, I was like, oh, okay, so this was like in the vein of a lot of the songs from the last
Yeah,
album,
like please
but
do
it's more country, which is
yes,
where the deluxe edition songs were leaning, and Slim
exactly.
Pickens, obviously.
Yeah,
Um, so I was like, I wonder if she's just leaning into more of a country
which I love,
vibe.
which is so good for her. The promo moment she put out of her in her like Daisy Duke shorts on the side of the highway, I was like, I love
Have
this.
you seen the stuff of her at that festival in Europe this weekend?
I've seen clips. I have seen clips.
So good.
She's hot.
Yeah,
They're all hot. They're all hot. They're all hot. And I'm like, oh, I'm so happy for you. And she brought
I
back
know.
Oreo for Feather, which I was like, yes, girl. Bring it back, girl. Bring it back.
I
Love,
know.
love, love, love. Um, speaking of love, I don't know. Here it is. Speaking of love, um, over the past years, there's been some things that have happened that we've loved. And then there's been some other things that happened. And here we're here to talk about the latter. Ooh,
Good.
smooth
That
transition.
was that was a good try.
It was something. So the idea of today's podcast, our chatting, is going to be about what the heck happened in 2024. Kind
And
of,
kind of 2025.
yeah, what has happened like since our last episode in season four to now? What in our hiatus, what was going on in the book community? We're not talking about anything else.
No,
We only have
just the book world.
we only have time for so much of a garbage fire. We're
And
gonna
speaking of, we only have so much time, this obviously isn't everything that happened over the last year because, shocker, there's like a new topic every single week. So we'd be here for probably a year ourselves trying to recap everything.
and also it's the same thing over and over. So really like take out the names of any of these stories and it's probably happened three more times.
Right. So this is a handful, just a small sampling, if you will,
Yeah.
of what we missed while we were sleeping.
Roll credits.
Well, that's it.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, we didn't even talk about the Switch 2. We can talk about it later.
no,
Um,
we can talk about it now.
no, because I don't have anything nice to say about it. We can talk about it later.
Okay.
Okay. First on the docket, the Akatar adaptation was scrapped by Hulu. Oh man, rats, shoot. Who could have seen that coming? Uh sorry, I'm feeling some type of way about it because I think quite literally, if this adaptation had come to a streaming service in the height of its popularity, um, I would have ceased to
Leave the
exist.
internet.
I would have to. I would have to like go live in the hills.
Yeah, I
I
can't do it. I can't do it. I
I
refuse to think
can't.
about it.
When I see people in the wild with Akadar tattoos, I'm like, get away. Um, so I think it would just be worse. I just if I hear one more wingspan joke, I'll have to run for president, and
I'm
nobody
over
wants that. So technically the show is still in development, but it's no longer actively being developed. And because
Well,
Hulu,
I think what it
yeah,
is that Disney 20th Century has the rights,
yeah,
but
and
it's
there's
not in active development, and the rights I believe don't expire until summer 2025, so
which
this
is
summer.
yeah,
And then they go back to Sarah Janet. And I think obviously I'm not on top of this news anymore because this happened a year ago.
yeah,
Um, it's been expressed that she plans on shopping the rights around to more studios after she gets them back. So who knows? This may not be the last we hear of this, but I mean, I think all of us were surprised that a Disney studio even bought it, even
and
though it's
that's yeah,
20th
that's the kicker.
century,
Yeah,
which is not really like in the child vein of Disney. I think they're
no,
the ones that own like The Simpsons and stuff, but
yeah.
um I think people were even still surprised
Well, even like
that Disney would touch it.
even I think like Disney and Fox have American Horror Story, so that's what
Oh, right. Yeah.
that vein is in, right? But I'm like, that is horror. Actor is very sex. It's very sex, uh, and like blatant sex. Which, hey, teach their own. I
Right.
was surprised that it was picked up because I feel like I could see headlines now of being like the fairy sex show on the kids platform. Crazy. Um,
Yeah.
so we'll have to keep our eyes peeled. Sarah Janet, so
I
self-aware.
certainly won't be keeping my eyes peeled.
And I won't be either. Anything I know about this is against my will. um, but Sarah Janet sucks to suck.
Yeah,
And that's all I can say.
that's it. That's all I got.
Yep. Am I next? You're next.
I think, oh, am I next? So, something that happened.
Yeah.
Well, there's kind of like two things that have happened, and I guess they're both kind of related. So, obviously, leading up to the election, was a lot of conversation about reading being non-political, apolitical, let's take politics out of reading,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all know reading is political.
Inherently.
And still, we're several months into this discourse, and it just keeps resurfacing. Um,
Years into this discourse.
yeah, yeah. Um, and so obviously it bears reminding for anybody that is new to our platform. Danielle and I are not in the camp of people that want to take politics out of reading.
No, put it in. It is in. It
It
has,
is, it's there. We don't need to add it. It exists.
yeah, and there's no agendas being pushed. Well, there's no, depends on what side, but reading is has to be political, and it's always been political.
And it always will be political.
It has to be. If not, what's the point?
Right.
That's
So
okay.
on the tail end of this, politically related, we had the rumblings that TikTok was going to get banned at the beginning of this year. And it kept getting pushed in the US. It kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And then finally the day came and I feel like I lost my mind that day. There is the time before TikTok was banned, and then there is the time after TikTok was banned for 15 hours. Um, much in the way I think of pre and post COVID. Um, it was just so bizarre. And I was on the app as it was shutting down,
Yeah.
and it was very, very bizarre to watch.
it was, as a Canadian, as someone who did not have to go through the banning, it was very interesting um, to see what was happening on the app without being too emotionally attached to it personally, right? Like, um,
Right.
people were having these tearful goodbyes, and then within that same time, I started seeing people being like, "We're back," like within the same For You page timeline, which was crazy. Um, there was this whole like call to action in those 15 hours where it was like every other country in the world was like, where are you guys at? Which is crazy. But yeah, it was truly just a little stunt to make, to I don't know, to make politics in the US feel more influential than it is. Oh, the
I
president saved
guess.
TikTok. I'm like, no, I don't know.
It was just very bizarre. It was also very funny to watch people put their whole asses on the internet and tell their platforms that they had been lying to them,
Oh, for sure.
either actively through their content or they were like, "Oh, remember this one time?" Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, "What?"
Which I'm like, smart, I guess, if you don't want to continue to hold on to the slide. But I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but my understanding of it was that TikTok was always going to get reinstated. That there wasn't really a world that there wasn't going to be TikTok for a long time.
I think at the time, like the week leading up to it, because it didn't seem like TikTok was going to sell
Yeah,
to a company that the US government felt okay with,
yeah,
um, that it did kind of feel like maybe we wouldn't have TikTok for a while. And so, especially if you were a creator who hadn't built your platform across platforms, I could see a world in which people were ready to be like, okay, this was like a period in time. It's not my full-time job,
yeah,
so I guess I'll just blow up my spot.
yeah, yeah. Fair. Crazy,
Wild.
crazy, crazy. Much on brand for us. Next topic is the Hunger Games stage adaptation that is coming to London this fall. Irish playwright Connor McPherson. His adaptation is set to open in October, and it's gonna be. I don't know how they're gonna do this.
I know. I'm so intrigued.
I'm because I think there's something inherently theatrical about the Hunger Games, but I don't know how it is going to
Absolutely.
work in one physical space.
Right. I'm interested to see what technical elements they're going to bring in.
Agreed. 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 Um, yeah, the production was set to open last summer, but it was delayed. Not surprised. The director and the choreographer who are tied are Matthew Dunster and Charlotte Broom, and then the designer Miriam Boother, who did the Stranger Things show that's happening right now, Stranger Things: The First Shadow, which I've honestly not heard anything. You've probably maybe heard more.
No. I thought I would hear more about it actually. Miriam was the set designer and co-costume designer on Patriots, the show I worked on last year. I think I met her briefly at our
Yeah,
opening night. So I have worked with in a roundabout way. I've worked with Miriam in the past.
yeah,
Um, Leading up to Stranger Things coming to New York, we all thought we were going to be hearing about it more, I think.
yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know why it's not, at least in my timeline, it's not as buzzy. I'm hearing much more about Boop. I'm hearing much more. I mean, I'm deep into Death Becomes Her because
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that show. John Proctor is the villain. Like, Oh Mary, maybe happy ending. Like, those are taking up space on my timeline.
Not.
Not.
It feels like we're in this little renaissance of these book to stage or like film to
That's what
stage,
I was gonna say.
right? Like Cursed Child feels like it was the first in this new renaissance to do it, but now
Hmm.
we're getting all of these like, oh, just put it on stage. Oh, we'll just do this, and it's different than the musicals who are doing it via jukebox
Hmm.
style, like the Clueless musical that's happening on the West End right now,
Hmm.
or and Juliet, where but these shows that I'm like, inherently, I think it would be interesting to see them on stage, but I don't know if they need to be on stage. Some
Right.
stories
Like
need to be
what?
told on stage, and some that I'm like, it would be interesting to see, but I don't know if it needs to be told on stage.
Right. Like I'm going back to this Hunger Games thing. I'm really interested in it. I'm interested in what they think putting it on stage adds to or
Yeah,
facilitates in the telling of this story.
yeah.
Um, because a lot of times, like with Death Becomes Her,
Hmm.
that's a film to stage adaptation, and they created a musical out of it, much like Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
And I think Legally Blonde the musical and Death Becomes Her are both very successful musical adaptations because they create a new facility
Yes.
for this story to be told.
Yes. It pays homage, but it also elevates, right? Like
Right.
I watched an interview with Megan and Jennifer where they were like, people come into the show expecting to see one thing, but they know all the beats that are going to happen, but they're waiting to see how it's done on stage.
Exactly. Um, and while I think a lot of people have really great creative vision, and if they see something in a piece of art and think that they could make a new piece of art from that,
Yeah.
okay, I want to see you try.
Right.
But I just don't know. I just don't know. Especially in this world of like, we were actually talking about this in our first episode, how you were saying like process versus the end,
Yeah. The product.
the product. Um, and it does seem like a lot more people are invested in the product
Yeah.
because it's going to make them money.
Yes. This is like, I, so many of those adaptations, like the Stranger Things one, I'm sure it's very, very cool, but I'm like, it feels very like this is hot right now. I think we can capitalize on the fact that this is a very popular franchise. Um, yeah, I don't know. I will never say no to people making art because that's again what art is for. It's for people to do things and say things.
Right.
But sometimes when your art doesn't say anything, I'm like, why?
Hmm.
Why are we doing this? I'm not telling you not to. I'm just questioning why.
I just have a question.
Um, okay, speaking of questions, everyone was questioning their sanity when this next story kind of popped off. This is the arrest of author Tori Wood's actual name, Lauren Tesselin Mastrosa
Hmm.
of Sydney, Australia, who writes under the pseudonym Tori Woods, who wrote a novel called Daddy's Little Toy.
Daddy's little girl or
Daddy's
Daddy's
Little
little
Toy. Oh, Daddy's Little Toy it is. It's toy, not girl.
Hmm.
That
Oh.
was my fault. Sorry, guys, I got the gross title wrong. I got gross title wrong, and everyone can fire me now.
We won't be doing that. Excuse me. Whew.
Now I'm worried that that's not the title. Okay, everyone take a vote. Is it toy or girl?
I think I've seen the cover in my mind. It might be toy.
Daddy's Little Toy.
Mm.
We were right. I don't know which I would like. I hate both.
I don't like either of them.
um, okay, so this novel depicts a 18-year-old girl who becomes involved with her father's friend. Um, Issues start to arise when it I guess in the book it has a part where he was interested in her when she was 3 years old or started showing interest, which is disgusting. Like anyway, so New South Wales police launched an investigation in March of this year after people were like, "Excuse me." They executed a search warrant at her home. They seized printed copies for forensic examination, which I think is so funny. I was saying to Deirdre before we started, I was like, just think imagining like the FBI or whatever that is in Australia. Um,
This government entity.
yes, perfect. Walking out of her little bungalow with boxes of the books, being like, "Ah, yes, our forensic evidence." Um,
Uh-huh.
and basically, what is happening now is she was arrested. She was scheduled to appear for court on the 31st of March. She was granted conditional bail. I'm like, I don't think she's a flight risk, really. But she's facing charges, 3 charges under Australian child pornography laws, possessing, disseminating, and producing child abuse material, which is a really interesting precedent to set in the bookish space
Right.
of like, hey, this thing, we can't, like just because it's fiction, which
Well, and I feel like I remember people talking about how like the Australian laws and the US laws
are
and
very,
obviously the Canadian laws are very different.
yes,
And it seems like it's much more strict in
it is.
Australia. Like they
So
don't play around.
no, so the Australian law prohibits any depiction of minors, either fictional or described in text, as sexual content, with maximum penalties of up to 15 years imprisonment and large fines. So like that's super clear. Like
Right.
absolutely not, no way, Jose. A lot of the issues on top of the gross crap that's in this book was that the book was described as like a barely legal woman, which in itself is like a problematic term. Someone wouldn't mean you're barely legal. Gross. Um, but she came under fire. The artist who did the cover came under fire, who, as far as I know, is not too involved, was just like, here, make this cover. Was basically like, please, please leave me alone. I'm
Yeah.
trying, like, but everyone's kind of distancing themselves. She was dropped by um, her person, her agent, or whatever.
Mm.
The next hearing is set for July 17th. Um,
Okay.
and there will be a pause to let the police examine the 10-page synopsis of what is going on. And I guess she was just in court on the 5th of
Oh,
June. So I don't know. All I know is she, after ended, she found out. Like, why would you?
yeah.
Sometimes, like, I'm not a big dark romance person or like taboo romance. That's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Um, and there's
Dip
been,
my toe, we've talked about this. I've like dipped my toe in just to kind
sure,
of test the waters and see what was out there.
we've all
And
read a Katie Roberts, Wicked, whatever her, what is the,
the Wicked Villains.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
even beyond that, she has her taboo series,
totally.
which I have read. And
Yeah,
obviously, um, and I read it. I don't, it's not for me. At least at this stage in my life, there are other avenues of dark romance that I much prefer wandering down.
absolutely.
Um, but to each their own, right? Like there are plenty of people that like these taboo romances. It really depends on how they're handled, though.
Exactly. And how it's handled within marketing, how it's handled within the content of the book, and then how it's, because it can create spaces for unsafe things to happen, right?
Exactly.
It can fester uncomfortable things from kind of popping up.
Right.
If people aren't very clear about denouncing or like correcting or analyzing or critiquing, if you're
Right.
writing any kind of media and you're like, yeah, this is totally cool. And no one is a character who's like giving any kind of critique on it. Everyone's like, yeah, totally fine. Uh,
Right.
I think it gets a little murky.
Yeah. Especially in like talking about, not to drag Katie into this conversation, but you know, um, I think I felt really safe
Yes,
in her books because she has very incredible boundaries that she sets
consent.
throughout the way she reads. The consent is so clear.
Yes,
The legality of people's ages, so clear.
and
Like,
agency, like their choice in doing it, right?
yeah. The way she writes like power imbalances and
Yeah,
the way she approaches those, very clear.
yeah.
That, even though those books aren't necessarily ones I will pick up again or really recommend to people, right?
Oh,
Because it's so specific.
yeah.
Um, but there are a lot of people out there who are just going to write for the sake of writing and they're not actually going to think about the implications of what they are writing.
Very much so. And what it opens a door to
Right.
for people, for conversations, for people who maybe don't have best interest in mind, people, right? Like for, especially in the romance genre, I'm like, it's tough because it romanticizes parts of relationships that maybe aren't consensual or maybe aren't uh, legal, right? This idea of this book, like I haven't read it, nor do I have any want to read it, but my understanding of kind of the gist of it is that this older man became interested in this young girl when she was 3 years old. And then I'm like, then we get into this conversation of grooming. We get into this conversation of like pedophilia and all these things where there is that inherent power imbalance where it's now romanticized. It's like, wouldn't that be so wonderful if this happened? No.
Right.
No, it's not romantic. It's not. And I imagine the book doesn't critique that at all.
Right.
I can only imagine. Let me know if I'm wrong, but if you've read it,
I think there was a reason she was arrested.
and that's what I'm saying. I'm like, the set of precedent when Penelope Douglas exists is a little crazy. Sorry for the stray, Penelope Douglas. Um, okay. Next up is Man Oh Man. Over the past year, we've had quite a few book festivals, hate we? Ain't we had them?
Yeah.
Um, or like convention spaces kind of thing.
Right. And like the fantasy balls
Uh,
have been becoming very popular.
yes, yes, they
Some of
have.
them, here's my thing.
Talk.
Some of them look so fun. Like when I see people's like, I
The
went to this
Bridgerton
fantasy
ones?
ball, and I'm like, that looks like a blast. But I know that when I go, the majority of the people there and who they're going to be dressed as is not for me.
It's Sarah Janet.
Like,
It's a Sarah Janet,
I want to escape her clutches.
and that's what I've been saying. But like, I agree, right? When the Bridgerton balls were really big, and seeing those all over, I was like, oh, I would love to go.
So fun.
Looks
They had
gorgeous.
Pride and Prejudice for the 20th anniversary, had that huge event out in LA. I think some people could buy tickets, but then there were a handful of creators that were invited to it.
Yeah,
It looked like so much fun.
I'm like, I would go to something like that where it was like specifically themed to a property that I'm like, okay, no,
Do you know about the Fête Gallant at Versailles?
no, I don't think.
Every year, there's this incredible, like, masked ball at Versailles.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
it is my dream to go.
Oh my gosh.
Like that, it's my dream. It is my dream.
Cool. Have you been
Anyway,
to Versailles? Have
what?
you been to Versailles?
Hmm. Yeah.
I went when I was too young to appreciate it. I want to go back.
Oh,
I want
I
to go
really
back.
liked it. I would go back again and do like a proper tour because we
Yeah.
just walked around all
Yes.
day. Um, I will say my impression of the Hall of Mirrors when we walked in, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't get it. And I had been building up the Hall of Mirrors in my
Of
mind for
course.
so long, right? And we walked in and like the mirrors they're old. Like if you've ever looked
Yes.
at an old mirror, it's got like all the brown on the edges
Tarnished.
and it's like cracking and um like internally.
Yeah.
And there's just quite a lot of people walking around and I'm looking around and I'm like, oh man, like I can kind of picture what it would have been like fresh.
Yeah.
But then the room kind of like because we spent a long time in there, right? We wanted to take pictures, we wanted to sort of appreciate what we were doing.
Yeah.
And we happened to catch it that like a big group had kind of left, so there was a little bit of breathing room in the space. And we
Mm.
went to Versailles on this super cloudy day. So it's like it's looking dingy, right?
Yes.
The clouds opened a little bit. This
Yeah.
sunlight came in and started hitting the mirrors, and then along the windows, there's all these like glass chandeliers that start throwing light too. And for about like 2 minutes, I got to see
So
what it was. And I was like, oh, I get it now. I think if you go on a cloudy day, you're gonna be not that
100%.
impressed by the Hall of Mirrors. But if you get a sunny day, it's quite impressive.
Okay. Yeah, we went I don't know, it was probably like 12 or 13. And I feel like we were doing so much on our trip that I wasn't able to like amp myself up enough for it. Right.
Yeah.
I'm like
It's
it's
a long day. Like we did it from the moment it opened. I think we were there until like 4 o'clock.
mhm,
We did all the grounds and stuff, and it was a long day for sure.
it's a long day. Um, Million Lives Book Festival was not like Versailles. It was in Baltimore. It just happened in May of 2025. And it's kind of the most recent installation in the series of romantasy events, panels, wherever, where like people will come to sell goods, like authors will come, there'll be panels, there's cosplay opportunities, and then there's usually some kind of big event, which in this case was a ball, a romance ball, which was supposed to be up for anywhere between 600 to 1,000 attendees. So it was supposed to be a pretty big event. Um, If you were on TikTok when this was happening, was crazy. It was like the Wild West crazy updates coming from these poor authors.
I could not believe the videos I was watching.
It was like very everyone's comparing it to Firefest, but it's also like DashCon. Like it's all like just the
Yes.
worst failed internet, social media,
All
whatever.
they were missing was a ball pit.
And that's what I'm saying. That would probably made it better
Better.
than what it was. Tickets ranged from $50 to $250, with the just the ball being $250 to attend. Which I'm like, where did all that money go? Oh,
No, for
this whole
real. Because when you look at the room they were in, where
closet,
did the money go?
no decoration. I'm like, closet. Um, much like all of these things, there was just a failure to meet basic needs. There was no food, there was no swag. All these promises were made, whatever. I saw a video of one of the authors being like, the ball, they didn't even have music. So a security guard felt bad for us and brought a Bluetooth speaker for us to play music on, which is crazy. Shout out
Oh
to that security guard.
no.
And then kind of like the biggest meme to come out of it was these like very few scattered rose petals as decoration in this gym basement. Um, Grace Willows, who was the organizer of the event, issued an apology. The apology is interesting. Was like, I messed up. Everyone's going to get a full refund, which is crazy. Apparently, allegedly, her management confirmed everyone will be getting refunds and that all future events have been canceled. Um, but Deirdre and I were reading up this morning. Deirdre read to me, I listened, and you can jump in if I'm saying it wrong. But recently, some things were popping up in Grace's life that has made it very difficult for her to pay back people, which is shocking. I'm shocked. Um, and all joking aside, it sounds like she was admitted to the hospital for a little bit, so maybe there's some health concerns going on. But it kind of came out that she had been pursuing personal loans to pay back people their refunded money, um, which to me is a little like, why would you ever do that?
Why?
Why would you? Because I can't imagine if all of the tickets were 50 to 250 when the ball was 250. But mind you, there was only like 30 people. I don't know. Maybe it's not as expensive as I think. But there was all these people who like authors showing up wanting to buy their or sell their books, right? And
Well, and I think the thing was the authors and the vendors had to buy table space.
yes,
So there's been a ton of monetary investment on the side of authors, vendors, and attendees. And now it seems like a week ago they tried to issue
yeah,
refunds through PayPal, but nothing was coming through.
yeah,
Um, so I will genuinely be shocked if anybody sees their money
agreed.
back.
Um, and I think something that's an interesting, weird positive that's come out of all of these incidents for me is to see indie authors or smaller authors, um, the process in which it takes for them to go to one of these things and people telling us of their personal journeys, right? Like I never really thought about how authors get their books to these conventions, right? But a lot of them ship them or bring them in suitcases or whatever and like plan to sell all of them so that they don't have to trek them back,
Right.
or send them back because that's money they're losing. I'm like, I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about this, or like having to pay for a table, or one of the other stories that we were going to potentially talk about. There was Readers Take Denver. I think that's what it
Yes.
was called. Another book event that was last year that sucked, and yeah, very similar things happened where it was like there was no garbages, there was no water, there were all these promises, it was going to be amazing. But the difference was Readers Take Denver had like 3,000 people attending. This had 33-ish. So an interesting shift. But yes, if anything comes out of this refund wise, I will also be shocked.
Surprised. I'll be surprised.
I'm shocked.
Um, moving into another more specific topic about
Yeah.
an author and a book, let's chat Danny Francis and Silver Elite.
Yes,
Has this been on your radar at all?
it has.
Oh, okay. So I became aware of this controversy around the book, but like the idea of the book and not necessarily about the book itself, which I think was a really interesting thing to happen. I also don't know about you. it came out on May 6th, so right around at the beginning of May when
Yeah.
everybody was making their videos about Danny Francis and Silver Elite.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying how a huge marketing push had been put behind this book. I had not heard a whisper about it
Same.
until 2 weeks before it came out.
Until all of the controversy stuff. Like I was the same
Like
way.
I wasn't getting anybody like this book is coming out, I'm reading it. I didn't get any promo stuff from Del Rey,
Nope.
who I've done stuff with in the past.
Yep.
So that took me by surprise because I feel like, especially in the sci-fi fantasy realm, both of us kind of have our pulse on like what is coming out, especially in terms of big releases. So
Absolutely.
that has been really shocking to me, like seeing
Yeah.
everybody talk about how big the marketing push was
I was
for
like,
this.
where?
And I was like, then why was I only hearing about it when people were talking about this like
Controversy.
this writer?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the largest amount of the scrutiny has been over the author or lack thereof, in that this
Uh-huh.
is a pen name and it is unclear who the author is. They are staying very anonymous. I know some people have kind of talked about their Instagram page and how it's a little bit like sterile because there's like not really a personality behind it.
Huh.
Um, and they are staying very anonymous, even though in the promo materials that was supposedly sent with the marketing campaigns. I got this from this info from Mari's video that she did about Silver Elite.
Yeah.
There's been a screenshot that has circulated of what was kind of sent in the marketing materials, and it was stated in this screenshot that Danny was a New York Times best-selling author. So even though this book has been marketed as a debut, everybody was kind of like, wait, if they're a New York Times bestselling author, now it starts to kind of be like, okay, well, a lot of people say debut when they're switching genres. Um,
Sure.
so, okay, maybe they have a pen name because they're switching genres and they don't want association. A lot of people are thinking that maybe this is a controversial person.
Yeah.
Other people are thinking that Del Rey kind of put a ghostwriter behind this, and so they're just not really putting a face to it.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's
there's
crazy.
an endless amount of speculation. Like we could
Yeah.
go on for ages
Yeah.
about it. But Mari did point out in her video that she wasn't able to validate the screenshot because she had said she went to Edelweiss to kind of look and none of that info had been there. And beyond the circulation of this screenshot, like nobody has shown like a lot of times when you get sent arcs of books, you get a physical paper of marketing materials
Yeah.
and nobody has like held that up, at least to my knowledge. So there's a little bit of like speculation about this screenshot also.
Yeah.
Um, so Silver Elite has a 3 book deal and is being marketed as a trilogy and was sold in that 3 book deal.
Which is
So for any of you that maybe are in the book world more casually and don't necessarily pay attention to acquisitions or how publishing happens, that is a huge deal. It is so I wouldn't say it's necessarily rare, but when books are sold in a package like that, as like a duology or a trilogy, or they buy the first 3 books with like an open end to extend the series if they
yeah.
know the author kind of has more in the pipeline,
Yeah.
that's a really big deal.
Especially if you're also saying this person's a debut author.
Right, right. Um, And so, of course, the conversation then became more about this anonymous author
Yeah.
and all the conversation offshoots of pen names. Um, it's invasive to be digging into people as much as people were. Having pen names is great and provides safety for people.
Yep.
People were, like we said, wondering if the publisher is trying to maybe protect somebody, and people were saying, we deserve to know who it is, right? And there's like pitfalls in every area of these lines of thought. Like, nobody deserves to be doxxed.
No.
People can make decisions about their privacy.
But then
Uh,
you also have like, and this was another topic that we xed because it's too complicated. But the Phaedrus Moon stuff, where it was like,
right,
there's people who are trying to circumvent their own problematic past by using pen names, and among other things. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
right. And so I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the book's about. So here's the summary.
What's a Silver Elite? I've never heard of them.
Um, Psychic gifts are a death sentence, and there are rules to survival. Trust no one, lie to everyone, and
I don't.
whatever you do, don't fall for your greatest enemy. Wren Darlington has spent her whole life in hiding, honing her psychic abilities and aiding the rebel uprising in small ways. On the continent, being modified means certain death, and Wren is one of the most powerful mods in existence.
Not
When
mod.
one careless mistake places her in the hands of the enemy and she's forced to join their most elite training program, she's finally handed the perfect opportunity to strike a devastating blow from inside their ranks. But training for Silver Block can be deadly, especially when you're harboring dangerous secrets and living in close quarters with everyone who wants you dead. And, oh, sorry. As the stakes grow even higher, Ren must prove herself to Silver Block. But that's easier said than done when your commanding officer is the ruthless and infuriatingly irresistible Cross Redden, who doesn't miss anything when it comes to her. And as war rages between mods like her and those who aim to destroy them, Ren must decide just how far she's willing to go to protect herself and how much of the continent is worth saving.
Okay, I was thinking about this when you were saying this.
Mhm.
Divergent ran so that uh Fourth Wing could walk, so that Silver Elite could crawl.
So as I was reading this, I was like, oh, okay, so it's Divergent meets Fourth Wing.
Yeah,
Cool.
quite literally. And I'm like, okay, two of the most popular books in the past 10
Maybe
years.
honestly a little bit of Red Queen thrown in here too.
Read. Like there's something about like a hierarchy of society or like caste system kind of that feels like in this.
Yeah. Um, I was also thinking about, I don't know if you remember last year, the movie Argyle came out. They released a book
Yes.
called Argyle, and the author was the author in the movie.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot, I remember there was a ton of speculation about who actually wrote it
Yeah.
back then. Um, because they really weren't promoting them together,
Nope.
even though they were like
A companion thing. They were the same
you
thing.
know. And this reminded me a lot of that.
That's I feel like a lot of the critique about this book is coming from the fact that that synopsis feels like it is AI generated. Like it feels like they were like, "Hey, write something that's like a mix of this and this and this." And like things like the continent or like there's this thing like feels very formulaic, which
Right.
as someone who's never written a book, it's none of my business, but like I can't say I could do a better job, but there's something very like early 2000s pick me about it in a
Right.
way that I'm surprised that we're getting in 2025.
But also the names of the characters. I don't know about you, I pay a really close attention to names of
Of course.
characters.
Yes.
Ren Darlington and Cross, his name is Cross
Crazy.
Redden. Those sound like
The
placeholder.
hero and the villain. The
Those
dark.
sound like placeholder
Oh
names.
yeah, for sure. They're like it feels like when you do the like this is your whatever name, what's your first pet and the street you grew up on name. It feels like that.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. That's
And they sound so because I noticed this too. They
yeah,
sound I'm speaking of sterile, the names sound sterile.
yes.
Like I can't really picture anything
It doesn't make me
just
want
based off of those names.
no, like it feels like yeah, it especially like like these like the rules to survive. Don't trust anyone. Lie to everyone. Don't fall for your graves. And it literally feels like you would see on the back of a 2001 like dystopian novel in like
Yes,
do do boom 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 right like
very that.
um wow I don't think I've heard of a single person reading this book to be honest.
I think Mari read it or was in the process of reading it, and I think Kevin was reading it.
Huh. I'm gonna have to go look at reviews because like I saw the controversy and then she
It
fizzled.
stopped for me.
Yeah,
I was like, I have too many other things going on.
that's not my business. um
I also think the cover is ugly as hell. I have no interest in reading it.
I don't know if I remember what the cover looks like. Let me look it up really fast. Oh, it's super ugly. Hmm. Yeah, no thanks. It
I just
doesn't.
don't get it.
It also feels like it's a super mature cover for what seems to be a YA esque romp.
I don't think it's YA.
I don't think it is. I'm sure there's sexual content, but it feels very uh like chosen one YA. This is of this genre. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's not to make to use YA in a derogatory way, but it just feels like the Divergent, but like a crappier version.
Yeah.
Damn, crazy.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it is. I have not heard anything about it since.
Well,
Um, and I have not spoken to anybody that has
yeah.
read it. So
Well, here's hoping.
here's hoping. The last topic we're going to chat about is the Unbound slash Boundless Press fiasco. So this is very complicated. And I've tried my best to kind of like condense it down
Okay.
into a 5 minute, like this is kind of what's going on. So Unbound is now Boundless, and
Oh,
it's a UK publisher which started as a crowdfunder.
okay.
So they would handle fulfillment, wholesale, physical, and ebook distribution after the book was published, etc., etc.
Yeah.
According to Publishers Weekly, they were once heralded as an innovative alternative to traditional publishing.
Okay.
They filed for bankruptcy in March after losing £9 million for shareholders.
Yeesh.
I can't believe I haven't heard about this until a week ago. Um, there was an author on Blue Sky, Alex DeCampi, who
Yeah.
actually had a good experience with them for the first two print runs of their book,
Okay.
but then had friends who had published with them later who did not have good experiences.
Not
And
surprised.
Alex has a really great thread on Blue Sky, which is where I got a ton of like firsthand information from.
Yeah.
And they talk about the like highs and lows, right? Like they are not just talking about what is happening right now. So after they filed for bankruptcy,
Yeah.
as Unbound, they were sold through a pre-pack administration to Boundless Publishing Group, which is
Okay.
how this like merger kind of happened.
Okay.
There was also, I feel like I left this out. There was another press in there, like back in September. The now CEO of Boundless had a publishing company that was acquired by Unbound. And then, like, less than 9 months later, Unbound is now brought into Boundless.
Interesting.
Yes. So about a week ago,
Yeah.
Alex shared that they were supposed to receive about $8,000 in royalties, and they posted the day they were supposed to receive these royalties because they
Yeah.
were like this morning, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Um, so they get an email from the now, along with the other authors that are with
Yeah.
Boundless, get an email from the now Boundless CEO, Archana Sharma,
Yeah.
which basically says we're a new company now, and we're not going to pay any royalties owed by Unbound because we're a
Oh.
different company.
Uh,
Meanwhile, Alex never received a new contract from Boundless. Um, Everyone uh, from Unbound just kind of like filtered over.
yeah.
So now this is a whole can of worms. Like
Yeah.
that is quite a claim to make that you were part of this giant acquisition. You now are technically entitled to everything that carried over from this company. If this happened in March, that needed to be stated back in March that those contracts were ending.
Hello.
Apparently, Boundless is now calling the royalties due historic goodwill payments.
Not money for jobs done.
Yes. And Alex shared an email that they received that basically said the email from Boundless basically said, "We have no money. We have no way to pay you all.
Me to
People are
me.
stepping down from the board,
Yeah.
not taking payouts." Sharma was writing this email and said, "I'm the CEO and I'm not taking salary payments.
Oh,
We're
boo boo.
entering fundraising efforts and bringing on new investors, and we just ask you to be patient." And she did state that if the company goes into liquidation, no further payments will be made.
Huh?
So Alex was very, very smart and actually shared the termination stipulations from their contract with Unbound, which, not shocking, in Alex's words, Unbound triggered multiple termination clauses.
Well, yes. Hello.
There are nearly 238 authors and agents owed £657,000. Nearly 8,000 website customers who pre-ordered books are owed £391,000, and other trade creditors are owed £829,000. So we're talking millions of pounds.
Oh my God.
The CEO has been very adamant that she inherited the problems and did not cause them, which, okay, fair, but you are now at the helm of this ship.
But also,
Like,
you knew. I guarantee you she knew about the problems.
Uh, So Sharma was a former investment banker and joined as CEO in January after
Mm,
Unbound acquired her company Neem Tree Press in September of last year, like I
mm,
said. She
mhm,
said the acquisition was structured as a stock transaction with no cash changing hands, but rather Sharma investing a substantial amount of new money into Unbound at the time
mhm,
as part of a larger funding round the company was conducting.
mm,
Under the crowdfunding system, funds were taken in from supporters, but there's nothing in the contracts that indicate that funds needed to be sequestered. This meant customer pre-order money could be used for general business operations
mm.
rather than being held in escrow for specific book fulfillment.
Uh,
That's like a
crazy.
huge red flag in a business model. Despite some notable successes, including the viral TikTok hit Kane's Jawbone,
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah,
most of us know is the murder mystery like puzzle book,
yeah.
which sold over 500,000 copies and generated an estimated 3 million pounds in gross revenue, the underlying business model could not sustain profitability. So now, not only are people taking to social media and articles are being written, but there's broken trust. The Publishers Weekly article pointed out that a lot of independent bookstores in the US sold Unbound titles, particularly Kane's Jawbone, and now there's a huge amount of uncertainty.
Mm.
And that is the latest with that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's more. Like, this
Yeah,
is just the tip of the iceberg based off of one Blue Sky thread and a
yeah.
Publishers Weekly article.
Well, and I feel like we have had a couple stories today where people are like, "Well, what do you want me to do about it?" I'm like, "You're the guy in charge."
Right. I
So
want you to do
if
something.
if anything, you're the one to be doing something about it. So,
Right.
okay, that's crazy, dude. Well, can't say it wasn't nice to just be flies on the walls during these events over the past year,
Oh, for sure.
but it's nice to chat about them a little bit. Um, wow, people need to do better,
No, for real.
freaking better.
Also, I'm like, not that there wasn't any,
Yeah.
but I'm like, where's the more positive stuff?
Hey, and but like they're right, like Kate getting a book deal. That's
Yeah,
positive.
huge.
Our friend Kate from Kate's Books got a book deal. There are positives that happen, but like they don't get the coverage. Shoot, of course not.
And they're certainly not as juicy as this stuff.
No, this was juicy. This was juicy, juicy, juicy. Um, holy holy guacamole. Well, who knows what 2020, well, I mean, we have half of 2025 left, so who
Right.
knows what else. Hopefully we see the end to some of these sagas and we get some answers.
I know. There's a lot ongoing from the beginning of the year.
We um amazing. Well, here's to a exciting 2025
Yeah.
year end. um okay, current reads, although we hinted at it, both of us are not reading too much right now.
No.
But what are you reading? Blah blah.
So, I'm going to talk about a book I read back in April and it came
Okay.
out in May, and that is Angie, sorry, Kills a King by Evan Lycum. I keep
Mhm.
saying it to me read as Angie, and then I listened to the audiobook and it was Angie. And I was like, oops, sorry, I've been saying the name wrong the whole time. Um, Evan is a friend of mine, and I'm so proud of him. I did get a little shout out in the acknowledgments at the back of the book with our group chat, and I was like, "Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you." And I did genuinely like his book. I know a lot of people are always like, "Okay, but what do you really think?" And what I really think is it's one of the best books I've read this year. It was
Okay.
so freaking good. I can't wait to read the next one. So, Anji, as you can tell from the title of the book, kills the king. That
Mm.
is literally how the book starts. It is
Yeah.
the end of this man's life, um, and her fleeing for her life
Yeah.
because she's like, "What did I just do?"
Yes.
And we know that there is a bounty on her head, and she's kind of like on a mission to get somewhere. And she takes a little pit stop, and in doing so, is caught by a mercenary named the
Mhm.
Hawk, who is a member of this group called the Menagerie. And
Ooh.
there are 5 or 6 members of the Menagerie. They all have different, like helmets that are animals.
Mm.
And each of them is known to possess a different magical skill and different skills within their group.
Yeah.
But it's very odd that the hawk is alone. They don't usually branch off and then meet up this way. They usually stay as a group. So the hawk captures Anji, is taking her back to her execution, and so Hawk can get her payday. And on this journey back, we start to learn a little bit more about the hawk. We learn a little bit more about Angie and maybe what her motivations were for killing the king. And we also get to see what the political state of this world is
Yeah.
because the menagerie are tied into the political state, but because they are like contracted people, they do operate slightly outside of politics. But it becomes very apparent that there is no successor to the king. And the king was, even though he wasn't great, he was doing his best to keep this like religious sect from
Yeah.
infiltrating the government more, and
Oh,
now there is no one keeping them in check. So a lot of it is like what is going to happen to this world now that the king is dead. And it is so fascinating. Like I felt really similar to how I did when I read Darkwater Daughter for the first time, where like the book is not that big when you
yeah.
look. It's like, I think it's just about 400 pages or just over 400 pages, and every single page is jam-packed.
Mm.
There's character development, there's action, there's storytelling, and I would constantly feel like, oh my God, I've just read 100 pages and like I read 10. And I love that style of storytelling because I feel like I get so much more out of those books. And like I get to the end and it's like I've read two books in one with how much story they were able to tell. So overall, I was just so impressed with Evan's storytelling and I can't freaking wait to get my hands on the second book. I'm like, gimme, gimme.
Um, I read another hockey romance. Shocking. Shocking. I'm shocked. It's called In the Game by Sloane St. James. It's like a second chance romance. Basically, this main character is like a groupie for hockey. And her name's Rayleigh, and she's like, I'm never gonna sleep with the home team. I'm only gonna sleep with the away team. Go girl, whatever you want. One night she breaks that promise, and she basically like falls in love with this guy for a night, but leaves without leaving any of her contact info for him. She finds out she's pregnant, and then tries to contact him to be like, hey. And then she gets these messages back from his social media, Instagram, like just awful, being like, you're lying, whatever, whatever, like just bad. So then 5 years go by, 7 years, five or 7 years go by. Uh, and he sees her again and he's like, I still love you, blah, 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 blah. And we started to see this mystery. Not really, really. If you've read one hockey romance, you know, kind of know what probably went on. Actually, no. You know what? I'll take that back. There is a twist in this that I was not expecting. It was like, what? Okay, sure. Um, I forgot about it because it comes so late in the book. I was like, oh yeah. They kind of lead you down one path of like, oh, obviously it was this person who infiltrated his social media and like blah 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 blah.
Sure.
It has a quick bait and switch at the very end, which was a little loco. But a very sweet aspect of this book is that the main character likes to search up the meanings of people's names when she meets them. So Garrett, who is the male main character, his name means bear. So
Hmm.
then she names her son Arthur, which also means bear, so that when he meets the son and the son's like, my name's Arthur, he remembers this about her, goes home, looks up the name, and is like, I wonder. That's my son. It's sweet. It's got like 4-ish stars on Goodreads. It's a good read. It's part of a bigger series. I'm slowly making my way backwards through the series because I read the most recent one. This is book 3. Book 5 comes out I think in July. But it's fun. And then the other thing I'm gonna start reading, if I have time, I have to. My family notoriously wants to do book clubs. And last
Right.
time we tried to do one was the Inheritance Games, and my mom read the whole book. I barely got through half of it because I was so busy with school, and my mom just kept reading them, and I was like, "Well, what's the point? I'm already behind." But my older sister bought all of us. It's called Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know much about it. It seems to be about like the first woman to be let into this like magistrate thing. So like Dark Academia standalone, magic, red pages. It seems really cool. And it's also not super long, which is nice. It's like again, like 400 pages, which is a nice break from the 1,000-page fantasy books that sometimes you get
Right.
drawn into. But yeah, I'm very excited to read this with my family. She has a YA series uh, called The Sword of Kagan. Oh no,
I
no,
would not call that YA.
it's not. Sorry, she has a YA fantasy series called The Volta Academy Chronicles, and then The Sword of Kagan is her
The
other.
Sword of Kaigen is incredible.
Okay, great. Well, I'm hoping this is good.
I've had that book on my radar since I read The Sword of Kaigen at the beginning of the year, and it is one of the best books I've ever read.
Well, if you want to join our book club,
I will let you know.
we meet on Sundays. We were supposed to meet today, and I said next week. I said we have to meet next week.
Since we both haven't really been reading, what have you been watching?
Watched RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
Watched the
I'm
most recent.
behind. I need to catch up.
Oh, okay. I won't say anything then. Um, been watching Hacks, which we talked about. Been watching. Um, oh, this season of Game Changer on Dropout is so delightful. Um, I feel like I talk about Dropout all the time to like everybody in my life, but if you're not a Dropout subscriber, it's like $5 a month, and it is some of the best television you will watch. They put on the most delightful shows. Game Changer, the whole idea is that every episode the game changes, so it's like a game show, but the most recent episode they did was like a spinoff of Traders, which I think you would love, where they have everybody drinking and somebody's a secret sober. So they do all these challenges and then they vote everybody off. And the twist at the end of that had me gagged. I literally was like laying on my couch, had to sit up and was like, oh. It is wonderful. So that new episode came out. So I've been watching that.
Nice.
What about you, dude?
Love Island just started. Love Island.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I did. I saw
So
that.
I'm all caught up, ready for the week. I'm not that impressed.
Okay.
It's like two people that I'm invested in. I'm hoping it gets a little bit more interesting in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if I stay invested this season. I have been known to cut off Love Island if it's not serving me because it is an investment of time.
It is like Big Brother to me. I'm like, if it's not worth it, it's not worth it.
Right. So we'll see. We will see.
Amaze.
But yeah,
I think that's it, kid.
I think that is it. Thank you all so much. I was like, I forgot that I do the outro.
It's okay.
Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for listening. If you made it to the end of this episode, you should head on over to our Instagram page or to our YouTube channel, and you should leave us a comment of the.
How about, isn't there like a newspaper emoji? I
Oh, yeah, I think so.
think there's a newspaper emoji.
Yes,
Okay, perf.
there's two. Pick which one you like. Or
Can I say something first, really fast?
Yeah,
Emojis are hard for me now because now I just use stickers of my friends of
you
like
do.
bad photos of people. So I don't use emojis anymore. So I'm like, I would use this photo of this person looking awful. So I'm so sorry, but yes.
Yes, so the newspaper emoji, and it'll be our little secret that we know that you listened to the episode. We are available on all podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Something fun about YouTube is we are available in two ways, which is something that we discovered this season.
Yeah.
So we hope you are enjoying all the various ways that you can enjoy our podcast. As always, please make sure to like and subscribe and rate us and review us and do all the things to interact so that we know you are enjoying it as much as we are. I know we said it in our first episode, but this season is like our pride and joy. I feel like with season 5, we are pulling out all the stops to make
Five
it a
golden
really
rings.
season. So we hope you are enjoying it as much as we have enjoyed making it. If you want to follow us on our personal platforms and stay a little bit more up to date with me and Danielle, I am at Deirdre Rose Morgan on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Bindery.
I'm at DJ Books on TikTok, Instagram, and on Threads.
And that is it for this episode. We will chat to you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.